I think my entire pregnancy was so memorable. My whole childbirth experience was so great that people who've met me after my baby have said that, oh my God, you're an inspiration in the sense that we didn't know that, it would be a pleasurable experience, so to say, for anybody. So all in all, I think it's so far been one of the best experiences of my life. Somewhere I knew about it, but maybe I was not prepared. I think I was in denial somewhere. So about a month I indulged and gave in to my cravings of chocolate cake. And on one hand, people who do not understand diabetes, they would keep telling me that right now is the time to eat. So for 1 month, I think this was in the 5th month of my pregnancy, people, I would listen to others and say, okay, fine, let me just indulge a bit here. Then I think my diabetes went a little out of control. So then we started on medication. So again, I was trying to be strict, but I was giving into my indulgences every now and then. Till it came to a point where I was told that I have to take insulin if I do not, kind of control my diet and be serious with my walks. That is, I think, when it kind of hit me, because the well-being of my child is what, kind of was driving me to fix it, because insulin, the risk that I was running is that I could be, what I remember clearly doctor had mentioned is that, you could land up in the emergency room. So in the emergency room because of low sugar if you start insulin. So I didn't want to do that, to myself, and I thought every scan that I had, my baby's weight was, kind of directly related to my sugar levels. So then that's, I think, when around the 6th, end of 5th month, beginning of 6th month is when I started a very, very strict diet and exercise routine. And I think I kind of managed through the last trimester. All my life I'd been dieting, and so this was the one time that I thought I could just completely let go, and that of course, other than that, I mean, you have heard of cravings and the time to indulge. So this is, I don't know if it was psychological or actually there, but this is the time when I wanted to eat chocolate cake, like every single day. So I think other than chocolate cake, I mean, I think I was completely off bread, roti, cereals, rice, I was eating, kind of I've never been so strict with my diet in my entire life. So I ended up losing weight in the last trimester. So it was difficult because, diet control, of course, in the last trimester you're hungry and, you're irritable and there's so many things, changes in your body. So then I had to be very, very, very strict. I've never been that strict. So I was eating a very, very healthy diet. It was not the typical, traditional, socially acceptable kind of a diet, perhaps, is what I would imagine. I was eating, I had to eat the right kind of complex carbs. I had to have the right amount of protein. I had to have a lot of fiber. I had to eat frequently. I had to monitor my levels and eat according to my levels. I had to make sure I was hydrated well. So, I was eating a very, very balanced, a very healthy meal, which, made sure that the development of my child, I mean, that included walnuts and nuts and fruit and protein, certain kind of carbs. So I think I was given a very healthy diet. I was blessed to have a very, very good support system in terms of my diabetes educator, my doctor, my gynecologist, my radiologist. I had a great support system. I have been blessed to have all the infrastructure in place. I got all the kind of food that was necessary, whether it was quinoa or whether it was bran, or I mean I had everything, fruit. So I think I was blessed in the sense that I had all the facilities available to make sure I had to prick my time myself about 6 to 7 times on an average a day, a glucometer. So I had all the facilities that it took to manage it well. My family was extremely supportive. I think my father was in denial because, I mean, he's a diabetic, insulin taking diabetic himself, but he was in denial throughout, I think. So initially he was like, eat everything, and, I think they were a little worried about me not nourishing the child enough because I was on a very strict diet. Then towards the end of it, when they understood, because of my scans and what the situation was and how it's being monitored really well, I think everybody kind of came around and understood that I'm doing the right thing. I was being very laxed and very, relaxed about it. Till the time it got very serious, like in the sense that I was told that it has to be either insulin and it'll affect your child negatively. So from that time, I started a very strict, walk regime where I would walk, 10 minutes or 15 minutes after every meal. So I would, make sure that no matter what, I would do that, plus another half an hour in the day whenever I could. So I was walking as much as or more than I was probably eating. My educator would keep telling me it's a thing in my mind. I had to, be strong about my whole. It was a game of willpower, and of course at the end of it, when you know that there's no choice, you have to do it because of the well-being of the child. I guess it was something that I had to be very disciplined about. The way I went about it in terms of my monitoring of my sugar, my exercise, my diet control. It had to be very, very disciplined. So there were so many pressures on me from my aunts, from my relatives, from people who don't understand diabetes. For them, it's all about eating. That's the whole focus is on eating, fatty foods and, things that people have been eating for years. So it was a big challenge in the sense to explain to them that, I can't afford to do this right now. My own, you will not believe it, my own baby shower, I did not eat anything at my own baby shower. There was a cake, there was cold drinks, chocolates, pizza, and I did not eat anything. I was hungry by the end of my my own baby shower. So later, my friends got my bran roti from home somewhere and an apple, and that's what I ate for my baby shower. So there was a lot of, people thought that I was not nourishing the baby because I think historically and socially the way to kind of nourish a pregnant mother is by just feeding her endlessly. So I think that was something I really had to explain. I think explaining to other people was also a big task for me. Typically what happens is that you are understood to believe that the more you eat, the healthier your child will be. And I think that's what all of us believed, but when I went in, and started getting my scans done, my baby's weight was coming on the higher side. So I instantly understood, and I was taught by my educator, my gynecologist, my radiologist about what was happening with me. So my high glucose levels were directly affecting my child, and it was directly related. So I understood, I think almost immediately as soon as I see my scans. The tough part was explaining to people around me. I was working throughout my pregnancy, so people around me had everybody has some advice or the other to give in the country, whether it's a neighbor or whether it's a relative, whether it's your colleagues at work. So they all thought I was kind of doing something really crazy. So you can look at my baby. She's a 7.5-month-old, happy, healthy child. So I think that result speaks for itself. There was a choice of managing my gestational diabetes with insulin, medication, diet, so everything was put out in front of me. If I didn't control my sugar levels with my diet and exercise, I would have to take insulin. So I think what we did with my educator and my doctor is that we stuck to a very strict diet regime and exercise. So that's what we kind of worked through the whole gestational diabetes. My diet was kind of really well taken care of. My exercise, I had a very regular exercise routine during my gestational diabetes. So I actually never ended up having to take insulin, which I'm very thankful for. We managed, kind of well without insulin, which is something that we take a lot of pride in. After my educator, my doctor, everybody, kind of takes a lot of pride in the fact that we managed with exercise and diet control. I was blessed to have a great support system in terms of the people who were monitoring me. They were checking on me after every single meal. My educator especially, she'd just send a question mark, like, what are your readings? So I was petrified if there was a single mark up, So I think I was very well taken care of, and I'm really blessed because that strict kind of, monitoring is what I think pulled me through the entire pregnancy with diet control. I was completely educated about the values that I had to achieve. I was, explained how normally it would be probably a 2 hour gap, that people have to assess. But in my situation, I was explained how it's so closely linked, my sugar levels, that I had to, within an hour, like I had an hour to check my levels, and I had to be very, very careful about my readings. My educator made sure that my readings were not up by even a single unit, because I didn't understand the gravity of, my 5 units or 10 units going up. But I would monitor, I had a diary where I would note down 6 readings a day. So she would explain to me that she would circle out every reading, and even if it was up by 1 mark. So she would be very strict about it, and that's where I understood that how it's affecting, because after like a reading of 3 days, I would have a scan. So in that it would show up. I think with the family, they kind of understood after the 7th month, because the family is a barrier, because they want you to eat, well. And they all mean well, of course. It's just a lack of education or understanding about the situation. So that was a barrier at work, to understand that, I was actually in the middle of workshops. I would come out, check my levels. I would not be able to eat anything, because you have to, it is time consuming in the sense that your food has to be available to you at all times. If I'm eating 6 times a day, the food had to be available to me 6 times a day, and the special food for me, so which is not readily available. It's something you have to work towards. You have to plan ahead. So yeah, there were a lot of barriers in the sense that, at work, at my workplace, at home, with friends, going out, I couldn't enjoy most of the things that a lot of people would enjoy during their pregnancy, like indulging. So eating out, I really eat out a lot normally, and I would love to do that even during my pregnancy. But because my, limits, my options were so limited, I had to be very, very careful. I did go out, but I would be in touch with my educator. I would tell her where I'm going, what can I eat. So she'd instantly come back with, a solution for me. So I wouldn't say that it was impossible. I did eat salads outside. I ate, things that were conducive to my situation. It was more of a psychological challenge more than a physical. So physically I felt very fit by the end of it. I think psychologically I was missing out on, the goodies. So it was a psychological challenge. Physically, I think I was feeling better. When I delivered my baby and I came out, I almost had a figure that I never had before. So I would say that I felt good throughout, by eating right food, because I was not missing out on any essential nutrient. I was eating very, very well, So I think that is what kind of helped me through. So at the workspace, what happened was that people around me thought that, because there were a lot of other women who'd experienced it, and everybody had their own, experiences to share with me. So they would be telling me stories of how they gained 20 kilos and 25 kilos, and, I felt left out in that sense, because I was gaining just the right amount of weight that was required. My baby was healthy, and, outsiders found it a little astonishing. But I was quite proud and happy by the end of it when I look back, and immediately after I had my baby. I think that time, even that time, it seemed all right, because I was eating well. I was just not indulging, is what I can say. I was eating very, very healthy. Sometimes, a lot of people would think it's because of my bad lifestyle and something to do with my weight, or so people have all kinds of notions in their head. At the end of it, it's something that, I understood that heredity and my genes had some role to play, perhaps. And I think when I knew what I had to do for the well-being of my child, and that's it, when I knew that this is what I have to do, then there was no embarrassment, no shame, no nothing. I mean, I had to do what I had to do because it was for the well-being of my child. I had to, work towards a healthy, happy child. I will never forget how my educator would keep asking me that, what are we doing everything for? So I kept giving her some vague answer, this and the other, and then she said, listen, we're working towards a happy, healthy child. So that's when it kind of hit home that, yeah, that's what I'm working for. And then I continued working towards, having a happy, healthy child. So one thing I'll say is that it's actually, for me, it turned out to be a blessing in disguise. I didn't have to worry about the post-pregnancy weight. I in fact came out slimmer than I was before. So I know that's a big deal for women. So I would say it was a blessing in disguise. I have a happy, very healthy child by the grace of God and with the support of everybody around me. So I just say that if you do end up getting it, just go for it. Do what your doctors say. Eat what your doctor tells you to. You'll be happy when you see a happy and a healthy baby at the end of it.